So I love how the universe supports me in doing the work that I do. It happens quite often. I just love when it happens. I've been planning for weeks to do a talk today about prayer, about affirmative prayer, and our form, specifically our form of prayer called spiritual mind treatment. Not only is it something that I love to talk and teach about, but I also wanted to take the chance to introduce everybody to our soon-to-be licensed practitioners and explain a little bit about what they do. So I've had this idea in my mind for quite some time. And after last week's question and answer session, if you were here, there were quite a few questions left over. And I did something that I never do. I usually take them and I put them away and I bring them out again for the next Q&A in case I don't get any questions, which doesn't seem to happen for you guys because you're a pretty curious group. But what I did instead was I actually took a peek at it because I wanted to see where you guys were. What it is that you want to know about, where am I doing? And imagine my delight and surprise when there were 5 questions about either prayer or treatment or practitioners. It's really nice to know I'm on track, right? So that is what we're going to talk about. We've been kind of leading up to this all day. We're going to talk about prayer. We're going to talk about affirmative, spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, and I'm going to introduce you to our practitioners in just a little bit. But before we do that, I have a story to tell you. I've heard it's a true story. I don't know. So this woman goes to her priest, and she says to her priest, "Father, I'm just really upset. I bought these 2 female parrots because I wanted some companionship, and they talk, but they only say one thing, and it's very disturbing to me. Every time they speak, they say, 'Hi, we're prostitutes. You want to have a good time?'" And she's like, "I don't know what to do about this. I don't know who they were owned by before or what. I don't know what to do." And the priest says, "You know what? This is not a problem." He says, "Bring your female parrots over to my house because I have 2 males who are very pious. They are very pious and all they do is pray. So I'm sure that my parents will be a good influence on yours." Oh, thank God. So she brings her lady parrots over and they put the lady parrots in with the males who are, got their rosary beads and they're praying and all of a sudden the 2 lady parrots look over at the males and say, "Hi, we're prostitutes. Want to have a good time?" And the one male turns to the other and says, "Put your beads away. Our prayers have been answered." Not only because it's funny and that, but because it actually illustrates to us how a lot of people pray, right? Many people pray for something to someone out there somewhere. Yeah? Most of us were raised that way. They pray to this far-off deity to come and intercede on their behalf or to bring them something that they want or to fix something that they think is broken, right? And that style of prayer has been used for a lot of years by a whole lot of people, and it can be effective. I'm not going to say anything about that. However, in our teaching, we believe that how life works, and when I talk about life, I'm talking about life with a capital L. How life works is through us and as us. So there's no need to pray to something or someone out there. Because we understand that prayer, that true prayer, is something that happens in here. Just like the song that we sang earlier. When I pray, I feel my soul. I feel my heart. I feel my love go deeper into my God. When I pray, I feel my love, my heart, my soul go deeper into my God. In other words, prayer is an inside job. We're communing with that God presence that is within us, not some guy up in the sky that looks like Charlton Heston from the Moses movie, or I guess not Moses, Exodus, right? So that is probably the most substantial and biggest difference between the way many of us were taught how to pray and affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. Because one of the major tenets of our teaching, Reverend Marjorie spoke to it so beautifully today, one of the major tenets of our teaching is that God is all there is. God is all there is. Say that with me. God is all there is. Now just sit with that for a second. It's all there is. Spirit, God, life, that life force energy is all there is. That means that it is in us. It means that each of us is an individualized point of light of the divine. Each of us is made of that God essence. Each of us has the divine spark within us. So that when we pray, we are doing it from a place of oneness and connection with the divine, not from a place of separation. That means in our form of prayer, there's no begging, there's no beseeching, there's no supplicating, there's no, I know I don't deserve this because I'm a worm of the earth, but please God, please, 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 if you could possibly, whatever that is. For us, affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment takes place in the heart and the mind of the person who's doing the praying. In the heart and the mind of the one who knows that they're one with the all and everything. They're not separate from it. Who knows and believes that they are an individualized expression of spirit. They're not a sinner. They're not a worm of the earth. One who knows that what the universe does for us, and you know, when I'm using all these phrases, universe, spirit, life, love, whatever, it's all synonymous. It all means the same thing. So when we're praying, we know that the universe, that God is, what it does for us, it is doing through us and as us, through our thoughts, through our beliefs, through our consciousness, through our awareness. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, put it like this: to pray in spirit and in truth means to recognize this indwelling spirit and to declare the truth about its activity through us. To declare the truth that it is indeed working through us and as us, not to us or for us. Is this making sense? A little bit of sense? Maybe it'll make sense in a little while. So the reason why spiritual mind treatment is so effective, and it is so effective, is because we come to understand that everything that happens in our lives is as a result of our thoughts and beliefs. Everything that shows up in our lives is a result of our thoughts or our beliefs, either conscious or unconscious. Everything out there is an outpicturing of what's going on in here. Not always on purpose, but it is a direct reflection. So when we do spiritual mind treatment, we are working in our own mind, which is connected to the one mind. And we are consciously choosing to affirm and believe something different than what it is that we're experiencing. Isn't that why we pray? Because we want to have a change in our circumstance or our life. Now, spiritual mind treatment, our teaching, the science of mind, is very practical, very practical. So we actually have a method. We actually have a proven method, a scientific method, how to pray effectively that is easy to understand, it's easy to use, and it's easy to see the result of what we call a demonstration. Holmes puts it this way: we have nothing new. We have nothing new. Try writing 52 talks a year and pretending like it's new. We have nothing new. We simply have a new approach to an old truth. more intelligent, a more systematic way of consciously arriving at faith. This is what treatment is for. A systematic way of consciously arriving at faith. So I'm going to tell you about that method in just a moment, but before I do that, I want to clear up some misunderstanding about the term spiritual mind treatment. Raise your hand if you think it's a weird term. It's okay. It's okay. I can't see you. Okay, yeah, I can see you. It is. It's a weird term. I mean, you tell people, I do spiritual mind treatment. You're like, oh, God, what is that? Okay, I'm about to tell you, because it's all it is an old-fashioned term for a cool process, okay? First of all, spiritual, meaning it has to do with all these things that I just talked about, having to do with God and spirit. It is the use of spiritual laws, so that's where the word spiritual comes from. Second of all, it has to do with clearing the mind of mistaken thinking. Spiritual mind. Here's the clincher, where the term treatment comes from. Back in the day, when somebody had a physical challenge, this is where it came from, they would choose to either go see a medical doctor or they would go to see a mental healer, like a practitioner. So the person would either be treated by their doctor or treated by their practitioner. Hence we have the phrase spiritual mind treatment. Not weird, hey? Right? It's not weird. But because the phrase is so misunderstood by so many people, a lot of people have switched the term spiritual mind treatment with affirmative prayer. And you know, I kind of use them interchangeably myself, but the truth of the matter is there are an awful lot of people who have trouble with the word prayer, because it reminds them of what they use, the way they used to treat, right? Or they used to, what is it we do? They used to pray. So it doesn't matter what you call it. Just do it, okay? So here is the method. Those of you who have taken classes with me or have taken classes, you know these things, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. So the first step, there are 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment. The first step is recognition. This is recognizing that God is all there is. We do it all the time. God is all there is. The substance, the source, that divine energy, that divine mind back of all things is all there is. You spend a little time in there and you just get it right now. Just like we did. God is all there is. The second step is unification. Because that's true, that God is all there is, then that means that I am part of it. I am one with it. It is what I am. I unify myself with that. God is all there is, and I am one with it. Imagine how your life would be if all you did first thing in the morning was recognize God was all there is, and unified yourself with it. You would be walking through your day in a perpetual spiritual mind treatment or prayer. You would be doing what the Master Teacher Jesus said when it said, pray without ceasing. If all you did was recognize that God is all there is, and I am one with God. But there's more. The third step, we call the realization step, we call it the declaration step, we call it the affirmation step, it doesn't matter. This is where you get to paint the picture of how you would like your life to look. This is where you do your affirmations. This is where you, in the moment, in the first person, claim your new truth. And you paint the picture. And God is all there is, and I am one with God, and I know right now that I am living a life of health and love, peace and prosperity, that life opens up for me in wonderful and wondrous ways, and I recognize opportunities when they come to me, and I walk forward in absolute faith. That type of thing. So you're painting the picture of it. God is all there is, I am one with God, and this is my new truth. Wow. Fourth step of treatment is thanksgiving. Now this is very, very key in treatment. It's not like, oh, I'm so grateful for all the wonderful things in my life, and I'm grateful my kitties are nice, and I'm grateful that it's kind of warm outside these days. That's not what the Thanksgiving step in treatment is for. The Thanksgiving step in treatment is for the purpose of giving thanks, of feeling gratitude for the truth of your word as it pertains to the treatment. Does that make sense? In other words, you're giving thanks in advance for the demonstration of your treatment, for the manifestation of your treatment. Imagine how powerful that is, that you are, and gratitude is causative, right? So you are giving thanks in advance, because that's showing that you have absolute faith of your word and that the treatment is going to be effective. So you're saying thank you or giving gratitude before you see the goodies. Yes. And then the final step. This is down and dirty, I realize. You know, we have classes that go for 8 weeks to teach this, but this is down and dirty. And the last one is the release step. I gotta tell you folks, this is the tough one. All the rest of them are really wonderful. But the release step, because you know what? If you got something going on in your life that you're treating about, chances are you're pretty attached to it. Especially if it's a pattern that keeps repeating over and over again. And so to release it, I release this to the law, I release this to spirit, I let this go, and then we have a tendency to want to take it back. But when we release it, if we can release it absolutely, then this law that we're always talking about, God's law, the working part of the divine, will take it and bring it back to us in that way. That make sense? Yeah. Okay. So these are the 5 steps of treatment. If this is hard for you, I have several tricks for you. If it's hard for you to remember, look at the first letter of each step, okay? R-U-R-T-R. Are you ready to receive? The first letter of each one of those, standing for are you ready to receive? Roo-de-roo. If you remember nothing else, remember roo-de-roo. You've got it. So one of the questions that came up during question and answer last week was what is spiritual mind treatment and how does it work? Well, hopefully I've explained to you a little bit about what it is. Now, how it works is a whole other question, and it's actually a very scientific answer, and it has to do with quantum physics and waves and particles and quarks and all this other kind of stuff. It has to do with faith, and I could go into that, but I'm not going to, because knowing the science part of it isn't my strength. So I'm not going to pretend like I understand it any more than I say that I understand electricity or gravity. You know, it works with a law. There's a law involved with this. And I don't need to know how electricity works to flip on the switch, right? So I don't need to necessarily know how the law works in order to use spirit and spiritual mind treatment. I'm okay with being in the mystery of just knowing that it does work, because it does work. Here's what Ernest Holmes said. Let us just think of spiritual power as a natural law. And let us think of faith and power as the right way to use this law. Prayer is our communion with the Spirit, and faith is our definite acceptance that through this communion there is a response to us and to others according to our belief. It is this increased faith and acceptance that makes prayer more effective. Which brings us to the question about practitioners and what it is that they do. which incidentally was another question from last week. What are practitioners going to do for us? Well, I'm going to tell you. There are, what's my balance here? I'm so excited about telling you about practitioners. There are times in our lives when there are situations or there are experiences that are just more than we can deal with ourselves. Anybody? Anybody beside me? All right. Maybe it's an old pattern. Maybe it's just something that keeps repeating itself. Maybe it's an illness. Maybe it's a financial problem. Whatever it is, but no matter how much we treat in our own mind, we have trouble seeing it differently. We have trouble rising above it. It happens to everybody. Even Ernest Holmes used a practitioner. Often. Her name was Vitura Papke. And she was world famous because she was Ernest Holmes' practitioner. And that's where a practitioner comes in. A practitioner has been trained to look beyond whatever the condition or the challenge or the problem is and see it objectively. Because they are not in the problem. They are able to see the spiritual truth. Spiritual truth with a capital S and capital T. And the spiritual truth is that everyone is whole, perfect, and complete. Everyone, regardless of our situation or experience. Spiritually, we are whole, perfect, and complete. So a practitioner is trained to see that truth beyond the condition, beyond the problem, beyond everything, and they are trained to affirm the spiritual truth about us, the higher idea in their own mind on our behalf, and what happens is a change of condition takes place. I'm going to give you for instance, in my former center, there was I just heard about this story this week, that's why I'm going to tell you about it. One of the members was in isolation in the hospital because of a particular chemotherapy that she was on. And it was not looking good. It was not looking good. And one of the practitioners from that center simply called her on the phone. Just called her on the phone and did spiritual mind treatment with her. And was not there in the midst of all the tubes and the bells and whistles and everything. Just was on the phone with her and was seeing and knowing her as whole. Seeing and knowing her as that divine expression. Seeing and knowing her as healthy and healed and whole. And the woman in the hospital said a sense of peace came over her. And the next day, the doctor came in and said, "We don't understand it, but it looks as if you are in remission, and you are welcome to go home." True story. Just happened. Just last week. Sometimes we call it rent a consciousness. When you don't have that consciousness yourself. So licensed practitioners, I'm just giving you the whole spiel here, are professionals. When they receive their license, they are professionals, and they will charge for their time and their expertise, not for prayer. They're charging for their time and expertise. And let me tell you why. Each one of these 6 people has gone through 4 years of rigorous study. Rigorous study. Not only have they done all the book learning, and the science of mind, as you can tell, is a challenge to read sometimes. They understand the teaching, they know how to do spiritual mind treatment, and they have also done their personal work. Deep, am I right, guys? Deep spiritual work in order to clear their minds of that old thinking and those old patterns. They've been trained to work